Here we are pulling into the Kandahar airport. This is the first checkpoint you go through.
Yeah.
Here's our credentials saying that we're with the driver of some government official. We're driving in a armored Land Cruiser.
ده بتاعي؟
اه
عندي شنو They're coming in different ways, you know?
Yeah.
People go different ways coming there. You have to check
Mama?
baggage.
دا بیک چکی نه
Oh,
وی چا دا نه پرېږدي
او.
مخه بیا لا پرېښوله اوس نه پرېږدي
On the other side of this wall is where they check your luggage. There's 2 dogs and an Australian man that work there. One, some kind of wiener dog, and the other one, I think a lab. We put our suitcases on a line against one wall and stood on the other side of the wall while the police dog checked our luggage. Ashraf asked the Australian man what are the dogs for, what do they do? He said one's for explosives and the other one's for hashish. The one that was knocking my bag around was the one for hashish. I thought to myself, well, thank God I didn't put any in there. And then, as we put our luggage on the rollers going through the x-ray, I walked through the metal detectors and walked up to claim my bag, but the young boy, who was about 17, asked me, may I look through your bag? And I said, that's fine. So he did, and as he was unraveling my headphones from my phone, which I use as a Walkman, a little piece of hashish fell out on the table. It was smaller than a dime. Fell on the stainless steel table in front of both of us, and he says, what's this? And I said, I don't know. And he says, you smoke this? In disbelief. I don't think he thinks that foreigners know what hashish is. And so he called his superior over and started filling out paperwork. He said, is this yours? And I said, yes, but I don't know how it got in there. And I just really wanted to give up and say, okay, what's going to happen next? You know, I don't need any of this extra stress. And anyways, they took the hashish and wanted me to go some back office somewhere, which I inevitably did. We drove in the car, you know, to this office and stepped inside. There's a long hallway and, you know, bars on the doors that were along the hallway, and there was water dripping, you know. It's really dramatic. Being led by a toothless Afghani policeman who, you know, resembled a French police officer, as you can see in the photo. We went into the back room, and I didn't have my passport on me. I forgot to mention that. I also didn't have any form of ID, and which is common for people to travel like that in Afghanistan, but you know, they don't get caught with hashish and they don't not know the language. Yeah, so we had to go in this back room, and pretty much the driver of Karsai basically signed me out. He said, yeah, I know who this is, here's my ID, you know, we're going to contact you once we get everything straighten out with his passport, which was pretty much being held at a government official office downtown, just sitting there not being worked on because we weren't bribing them basically. And yeah, so I didn't have a passport. Long story short, we filled out this paperwork. They kept the hashish. I even made the joke with the guy as we were leaving that he was gonna smoke it as soon as he could, which I'm sure he did. Yeah, so that was what happened at the airport.
I forgot to mention that
Once we got to the back room office that we were being led to, we sat down and Ashraf started shouting and being rude to everybody possible. And the superior officer on duty comes in, little short man, bristly white mustache, obviously given this position for respect, because he was probably the oldest guy there. He basically came in and said that I couldn't go on the plane. I wasn't really under arrest or anything, but I just wasn't allowed to go on the airplane. And Ashraf basically said, "Don't make this hard on yourself. Do you know who I am? President's cousin and all this." And basically got me on the muscled his way onto the, muscled me onto the plane. When we left the office, I said, "Don't worry about it. Nothing happened." Which, I felt something did. But to him it was just nothing. Like we had to stop at the bathroom or something like that. Later on, when we were on the plane, he sensed that I was worried. I had a worried look on my face the whole time. He said, "You're still thinking about that hash? Don't. Nothing happened. It's not a big deal."
this guy, I don't know where that scribble came from, but as soon as I saw him, I started calling him Geppetto every time I saw the picture, and I even saw a group of kids posting his picture up, all in sports coats, probably 12 years old. Yeah, there was 7 or 8 of them, just putting one picture up at a time. One of them carrying the stack and just moving along wherever they could, a blank spot on a wall. They just put his picture up. Here's the office. When you walk into the courtyard, it smelled like hashish. There was about 15 guards standing around with AKs all dressed in blue. About 1 million pairs of sandals out front of the door. Yeah, there's everything you could possibly want in there. All kinds of food and drink, and it was basically just a really well guarded office building with spaces to rent or whatever.
This is one of the first streets we drove down. To be fair, they are doing road construction, but some of the streets aren't that bad. It's basically seriously like mountain trails, but middle of an urban environment. This kind of music and videos were always playing, constantly. Yeah, this is one of the wedding halls in Kabul. This one was actually bombed the next morning, and during breakfast, we saw the reports of how it was, been bombed supposedly by a female suicide bomber, which was a new tactic, I guess, they were using at the time. They sent in females because they could get further into different areas without being bothered. I think 4 Germans were killed in the explosion. And Ashraf made the joke, "Oh, you wanted to go there last night for kebab. This morning they make you a kebab." Yes. Crazy time, man.
خود امریکایی وجه خونه Arthur, look. Can you take that picture, please?
از عربستان که خود را دادیم 72 کی میگه و کشک میشه بسیار خوب تلفن بود این فیلم پوری شروع کرد میگم ما فیلم پوریت میکنم خوشحال شدم ما خود انداختم از این طرف که خود انداختم در میسه در پلیسا در جای شد خود کشیدیم بچه ها صدا داره که او بچه آجی نرو کنجا مینا میزنه دو سنگا خب ما هیچ نمیشنویم خود یک وقتی که رفتیم از اون طرف که آمدیم ما آدمی مابین او طرف خود انداختم گفتیم تا اینجا بکشه خدا رسیدم مابین فول که می رسیدم یه عرصه در یک جای شد در یک غربند و چی زیر پل یک جای میشه همین جمعه را گیر کرد ما خود نشه چیل ما هم زدیم هم دو بشکه وای نزدیم دو بشکه را خوردیم از کلام بشکه 5-6 نفر هستیم یک وقت همین جمعه را گیر کرد خدا رسی همینطور ما گفتیم برو رفتی همینطور دستگاه که برا برد خدا اهل مرگ دمی چشم خدا راستی ما گفتیم این مرگ کلاشینکوف وقتی میبینی چیزا رو خو یک تصادف ما مرگ خدای دستا بالا نشه با خود بازم رندی کردیم که دمی سه درا دو چه چمپا زدیم همینطور دستا خدا ما همینطور گپ ملاس همینطور سلو دستا کشورای خوب که دوام یکم دو راش کی رفتیم گفتی بگی عکسای ما خدا راستی تو بودیم مثل این دو میبینی سپید زرد میزدیم و عکساش بچه واسه یا بسیار خطرناک
Yeah, no, I know. I could tell. What's that?
عمومی صلاحیت ورته کړه
Yeah. Well, I could tell you were cold. I could tell you were cold. Everyone was.
کله Yeah. We are at sea.
Yeah.
دا ځای یو مخکې ملا صاحب ورکړي یو بل انجینر ته دا سره د ما مخالفت وکړي بل ورځ ملا صاحب ورکړي چې بس انجینر صاحب ته ډېر وکړ نور دغه
Aynı siyasa. Aynen siyasa. Aynı şeyi ki sur meyve sarma işara da. Mega mai jabar ki khaka istara sim sarma kolanga ne kana. Na akhiru jabe agar asnad bide mu asnad ay pisalangi. Yaman ishare yas.
These were actually Soviet living quarters during the Russian occupation. They're now luxury apartments for Afghans. See all the tea and nuts and fruit. Other things laid out for us in case we got hungry. Yeah, this is one of 4 rooms that opened up to a hallway and dome. At the end of the hallway was the kitchen and the bathroom. Outside there's a Hilton being built for the visiting dignitaries. Also it's the presidential buildings and palaces and government buildings. This was our host. He was a very kind man. He had some kind of stomach cancer that couldn't be cured. He'd been all over Europe and the Middle East, but no one was helping him. Couldn't find anyone that could. He was a good host, but he left us there until about noon, and we were pretty starved. Ashraf commented later on this meal. He said, "Doesn't that guy have a brain? I told him I can't eat sugar. I'm a diabetic. Doesn't he listen? He acts like he doesn't care. All this food, I couldn't eat any of it. I was so hungry." here we are in the parking lot smoking hashish. One Afghan told me it's like drinking water. It's so common, no one cares. Here we are in front of the bathhouse. There's a kid here selling soaps and, you know, Red Bull and stuff, and this guy's just smoking right in front of him, like it doesn't even matter. There was a masseuse in there. I don't think he was accredited, but cracked my back in all different kinds of ways and shaved everyone's armpits because Muslims consider body hair to be dirty.
چطور کنیم اون آوازی اکبر خان است؟
باز میدیم یا تنها خواهد میباشن
کجا جون؟
تکت فروشی در تیاره تکت
آقا تیاره میدن دستو کیا؟
یا تکتان
شهری نو کجا؟
آوازی اکبر خان که نمایندگیسته
بس مشتای شهری کیالی هست روزی باید علت تو خو شهری کیالی هست سه وقت روانی نیست بس مشتای نواه خانوسی
شهر کاره دغه مخته
ویم تکت در خود
از خودم میگیری از آتر میگیری
بجان بعد اختار میشه
پروانه داره یک سال شد عبدالوهاب شانم ده تا میکنیم خوب ماما عبدالوهاب شانم تا میکنیم شارک به شاجیشان
چی؟
عبدالوهاب شانم میکنیم تا میکنیم
گردم اجدا این داریم گردم اچکلش
شیل است از عبدالوهاب شیل است نیست شارک موتر
He seemed like a really sweet father. His kids, looked up to him and loved him and served all the meals and brought pillows. And, even the littlest one came up and kissed my hand. Like it didn't even know what it was doing, just pressed its face against my hand, copying the other kids. This was the last night we spent in Kabul. In the morning, Ash was going to be flying back to America, and I was going to fly back to Kandahar, where we were staying. These guys, they're very hospitable. Showed us a really good time. We met them, actually, at the police outpost on the mountain that overlooks the valley that we lived in Kandahar. They were kind of hiding out because they were in town waiting on some money that they were owed. And that was the safest place for them. I guess they had a lot of enemies in Kandahar. And Ash invited them to stay with us, and they stayed for about a week. And yeah, then they invited us out to Kabul. But about a month after, maybe 2 months after we left Kabul, we got a call from the police chief's nephew, who's good friends with them, who actually introduced us. And he said that they had gotten into a knife fight with some rivals. I guess they had walked into the rival's house and started stabbing everybody, and it turned into a huge knife fight, and they got away. But the gentleman who we stayed with was actually found dead in the back of the SUV they were driving us around in. He had been stabbed multiple times in the stomach and in the chest, and was ditched in the outskirts of Kabul, out in the desert. And the other two disappeared without a trace. I mean, they didn't go back for any money. They didn't go back to their houses. They didn't take any money with them. They pretty much just vanished. They didn't go back to see their friend's funeral or anything like that. Even their best friends don't know what happened to them. Apparently they left the country, or they have no idea. Funny story about the police chief's nephew. He actually was the one driving us around in Kabul. He took us to the bathhouse and drove us around. But when it was time to pray in the evening, he actually stopped the car in mid-traffic got out, went to the sidewalk, and started praying. Blocking traffic with his door wide open, and people were going around us and honking, and some guys actually shouted at him, "Hey, stop showing off how Muslim you are. Pull over and get your car out of the street. Idiot." And yeah, he was definitely religious. He was praying in the car, telling me a prayer. I was sitting in the back seat. He was driving, and he was looking back at me, praying and driving, and not watching the road. He was just looking at me, telling me this prayer I couldn't even understand, but he was trying to be helpful or whatever. But yeah, same guy was sitting watching TV at his house one night, and one of his servants was sitting in the corner not doing anything, and he wanted to give him a choice, said, "Hey, make me some tea." And the servant said, "Make it yourself." So without question, he pulled his gun out and shot the servant. And the servant didn't die, and so he took him to the hospital. And yeah, they made up a story that a burglar came in and shot him. Then actually the servant still works for him now. He said, well, apparently the servant smoked hashish and was mouthing off. I guess and he told his boss that. I mean, I guess that's a normal excuse over there. But yeah, he said he wouldn't smoke hash on the job anymore, and he would just make the tea next time. Yeah, true story.